Oh wow. As a Grob opening player, you've run into the unfortunate situation where your opponent actually knows a Grob theory and doesn't blunder in the first 5 moves. Now you're in a terrible position, and now you don't know what to do because your entire opening idea was reliant on a few traps. Now, if you end up in this situation and decide you don't want to resign, then I have a few tips for you on how to play the Grob after they successfully defended your terrible opening. So, first off, this is the position you get after your opponent plays completely correctly and counters the Grob opening with the best possible moves. Uh, all engine moves, I think. And you end up with this position. What you want to do is try to get your queen out of the way as fast as possible, either here or here, because your queen might be subject to attacks and possibly traps if you keep it over there on their side of the board. Second off, you want to castle queenside. You either are going to castle queenside or not castle at all, because if you castle kingside, your king's position is exposed because of the missing g pawn. While there is a missing c pawn, it's actually not as bad as a missing g pawn because the g pawn is right in front of your king, and if you play king to b1 after long castling, then you'll be able to have a slightly covered king. You might need to play king a1 eventually, but yeah. Second, you want to eventually start putting presents in the center. For example, d4 is the best move right here because you open the line for this bishop, and the bishop can actually move now. And after the bishop moves, you can castle queenside and bring your rook maybe to the open c file after moving your king somewhere. This is actually very important and can be extremely strong in certain situations because the rook will be targeting one of the weakest pawns in the king's position if g6 is not played. It can be extremely dangerous, especially if you decide to fianchetto your bishop this way, and instead of playing d4, you play d3 and e5 instead. I mean e4, not e5. It's even better in the endgame because there's way less threats to worry about, where in the middle game, you might have a lot of things going on and you need to worry about your king, so it's a bit harder to think about the open g file when you're constantly being bombarded by attacks. But yeah, if the d pawn is pushed, you want to focus all of your pressure on the king side, bring the queen back, bring the bishop maybe to b3, although that might really compromise your king's safety. Bring the rook to g1, maybe double your rooks on that file because you already have an open file, and put the knights maybe like over here. Your knights can really go wherever they want, but the most important part is the open g file, which you should be using if they castle kingside, and the open c file, which you should be using if they castle queenside. However, I really don't think they will want to castle queenside unless they're crazy because of how much more open it is. Like, it's somehow more open on the queen side, on their position, than your king side is in your own position, even after you played g4 on the first move, which the computer absolutely hates. Now, most of the time you won't get a perfect position like this, but if the d pawn is in the center and it's not pushed forward, then this is the kind of ideas you will want to use. They might castle kingside or not castle at all, and if they don't castle at all, you just do your basic principles and attack in the center, or attack an uncastled king. It shouldn't be like terribly difficult. This bishop is like almost useless actually. The only purpose it serves is probably to like attack this side and pin the knight or something, because like it isn't even using any of the traps I showed you in the last video, and it's not going to be used very much later in the game anyway. The only purpose is to pin this knight, possibly force a pawn push, and just be a normal bishop. It's not the worst bishop. I mean, it could be worse if you play like e3 or something, kind of like have the French type bishop. But yeah, this bishop is a lot more important because it puts pressure on this side. It was the one putting pressure in the beginning of the game, and it's going to be the one putting pressure later in the game. And it's very essential because it's attacking the d pawn, and you can play like e4 to like put even more pressure on it. Because this d pawn is extremely annoying. It's in the center, it's blocking your bishop's view, and it's not fun to deal with. Now you have to bring your queen back in the case of a rook push to here and then here. That's how you want to activate your queen. Now, if you can't bring your queen back in this direction, you have to bring it back in the other direction. It's still going to be very powerful on a d3, possibly even more powerful actually than if it was on like b3 or c2. So you have two options of moving the queen. One option if they push the rook forward, but you shouldn't have a hard time getting your queen out unless you've fallen for the e6 trap, where they bring the rook to c1. You didn't put your knight forward, and now you're getting back rank mated if you move your queen away. But in this position, you've not fallen for it. Your knight's in the way. Your queen can escape. You haven't taken the c pawn with the queen. So your queen should not be trapped in any way. If they play g6 to stop ideas of rook g1 and prevent the strength of your rook, then you have to play h4, h5 to try to get it out of the way. Because if you don't get that out of the way, their king will be very safe and they'll just have a very nice position while you have to deal with your blown open queen side. Of course, it's not as blown open as your king side, but just they have a much easier position than you. So just to recap, if their pawn is in the center and they're not going to move it anytime soon, play e4 to try to break open the center. Bring your queen back either to a6 and then d3, or b3 then like c2, or just staying on b3 if they don't decide to move the rook over there. Use this bishop to pin the knight and threaten weaknesses on their side. Use the open c file if they castle queen side, or as self-defense because they might use the open c file as well, and use the open g file for offense, and especially if they castle king side. If they play g6 to defend against your rook over here, then play h4 and h5 to get rid of that g6 pawn, or at least try to make it weaker. Smart players will probably keep it there and take with the f or h, not the h pawn. The h pawn would be bad actually. They will take with the f pawn, and they'll still have the g6 pawn there, and you'll kind of be stuck in a weird position. I've seen this happen a lot playing the Grob on the white side and Borg on the black side. Sometimes they will push their pawn forward, their d pawn, to avoid the c4 attack. What do you do now? Well, first off, you kind of have to stop trying to play for traps at that point, because I don't really think there's anything you can do unless they move the bishop out. You get to take a free pawn, maybe fork them, but they're probably not going to do that. They're going to play like rook to b8, just play some more random moves, because this was kind of just a position as made up. They'll probably play something like this, then move their bishop out. What you have to do here is you have to bring your knight to d2, because there's literally no other like good spot for it. This is okay, I guess, to bring it here, but it's not as good as just bringing it to d2 and just having it immediately be possibly effective. You want to try to stop them from advancing any further with their e4 pawn. That probably wouldn't be very good anyway, but you just want some control of the center. So the computer is recommending knight to e4, although I wouldn't play it right away. Castling kingside is a lot safer actually now, because their g pawn is still there. But I still wouldn't recommend it because it's pushed way too far and is a very probable weakness. Now there's a lot less specific things, and you just kind of have to play more normal chess now. This isn't really specific to the Grob anymore, but control the center, bring your bishop out to like maybe here or something. Try to challenge a possible fianchetto. They don't always fianchetto, but if they do, try to challenge it and like push on the king side. You can castle either queen side or king side here, but just be wary that they might attack it. They can attack your g4 pawn a lot easier than a g3 pawn, because all they need is one h5 push. This bishop is probably going to do the same thing it normally does, go to g5, attack this knight, try to provoke an h6 push, take advantage of the h6 weakness. And Since you don't have an open G file anymore, you can't really like use that to your advantage. So you should probably try to castle queenside anyway. But instead of utilizing an open G file, try to make open files by pushing the pawns. Maybe you'll get an open G file, maybe get an open H file instead. Either way, those are both good for attacking. If they don't play rook to b7, b8, then try to just keep pressure on the queen side, because the pressure on the queen side basically prevents the bishop from moving, because if the rook wasn't here, you would have just taken the pawn. But if they do play rook to b8, that means they can't castle queen side, which is an option you don't have to worry about. Most people castle kingside regardless. No matter what kind of opening it is, kingside castling is much more common than anything. So just throwing your pawns to the kingside, you either use this bishop to keep pressure here and make it stay here, or do you want to move it around and put more pressure on the kingside this way? Maybe put it to like d5, e4, put everything in the center and march towards the kingside. This is much more like just generic chess rather than Grob specific moves. So just play normal chess. You'll be fine, I guess. I mean, I didn't play perfect moves, but if they're pushing the pawn, they're not playing perfect moves regardless. So you're not going to be as bad as if they're playing perfectly, because you won't have to deal with open C files that might murder your king, and you'll be more safe. Just play chess if they push the pawn like this. Now, this is something I see a lot more common on the black side than the white side, because when you play g5, these people will put both of their pawns in the center, and instead of trying to take your pawn after you get the basic Grob formation with bishop to g7 and g5, they will instead try to block your bishop out, so it's a lot more safe. Now, what you want to do in this case is, first off, make sure your pawn can't be taken anymore, because since the pawn on e4 has been pushed to square, your bishop's kind of blocked out. It can't do any more tricks. So you just want to make sure to be as safe as possible. Second off, you should probably figure out some way to get one of these pieces out. It's fine to castle kingside in this case, because I mean, it's kind of hard to do anything else. If you want to get this bishop out, you'd have to play like b6. Maybe you shouldn't have moved your queen to like b6 so you can put the bishop over here. But regardless, it's still kind of a crazy position. If you manage to be able to castle queenside, try that. Now, it's basically going to be pretty much the same thing as the d-pawn push. However, there's one key difference. You kind of want to get rid of this e5 pawn. It's really annoying. It's blocking your bishop and it's causing a lot of problems. So what you want to do is put your knight to e7, because you can't put it to f6 because of the stupid e5 pawn. Castle kingside, get the rook over here, and try to go for f6, because you really want to break open their control of the center and get an open f file for your rook to maybe attack on the queen side. It's still kind of complicated, just like any Grob position. You just have to work your way around it. There's nothing really specific. Just go for a push, castle, and hope for the best, because especially on the black side, this is called the Borg defense, by the way, you're going to have a really hard time if you're playing the Grob on the black side and they actually know what they're doing. I mean, just look at the evaluation. It's plus 2.4 for white. So you're usually going to see this more often on the black side, because they see your feet into the bishop, and you're not fast enough to like really get a trap in. So they're going to push your pawn. This is a lot less common on the white side. I promise you that is like a lot less common to see a e-pawn push on the white side. Now, the most annoying thing to face is, instead of somebody who decides to play normal moves like pushing their d-pawn or taking the whole center, they play c6 on their second move, and they basically make it impossible to do anything. They will take control of the center on the move after they play c6, and you kind of just don't have much. What I like to do is I like to play c4 anyway, even though the computer hates it, and I kind of have to gambit the pawn if I want to really get an attack going. The computer recommends knight c3, but then you're going to get pushed, and who wants to deal with all that? You know what I mean? So I would gambit a pawn. Yes, you're going to be down like some material, but you're going to have a more playable position. Since you've gambited the b pawn and you pushed it already, you can fiend shadow your bishop now. And try not to castle on the queen side this time, actually, because your g pawn is still there. It's not an open g file, but your b and your c pawn are missing. So this is really not a place you want to castle into. Castle cake side, play more positional chess than normal. Yeah, try to survive. It's the Grob opening. You're already in a bad spot after playing the Grob opening like anyway. So just try your best. Don't die. Castle king side. This bishop will be slightly less effective. This bishop will be slightly more effective because the c6 pawn is very annoying and blocks everything. But if they're stupid and they move their bishop out and leave this pawn hanging, then you're going to be equal in material, probably worse in position, but take the pawn if they decide to just leave it hanging. If it's safe, of course. Always just look out for tactics. This is true for any kind of chess. It's not too different, but it's just something you gotta be worried about. This time, castle cake side. This time, use these pieces to create pressure. And this time, you kind of have to use the open C file instead of the open G file because there is no open G file in this position. And yeah, just try to create more pressure on the queen side instead of the king side. You usually already put tons of pressure on the queen side on the Grob opening, and that's your main focus for the beginning, but that's going to be your main focus for the middle game too, because you can't really do much with this because you're going to castle king side and you don't want to compromise your king's safety any more than you already have by playing the Grob opening. So yeah, that's pretty much it for c6 and d5. I don't really have any other scenarios because the other scenarios that I'm probably thinking of are resulting from bad play and not actually good play. Just like take advantage of bad play if you can. They're doing that to you because you played g4. And yeah, just play chess. I've said that too many times. I think I'm being too repetitive. So I think I'm done with the video. So that's it for the video. I hope you learned something. You probably didn't because I'm 1500 ELO on Lichess, 1200 on chess.com, and I'm not that good at chess, but I try. So thank you for watching if you watched this far, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.